most high school coaches don't follow. Most high school coaches don't follow like college hoop. I never understood that.
Yeah, that makes no sense to me.
Like
Aren't you
you're a
a fan of
fucking coach. You
Yeah.
don't follow fucking hoop.
Yeah, aren't you a fan of the game?
Yeah, I go
It's
home and watch
incredible.
fucking high school. I don't give a shit.
Right, right. No, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't that way though when you were first coaching, right? I'm sure all high
No,
school
we
coaches,
all followed it.
yeah, you all talked about what was going on.
Hey, walk into practice. I'm like, hey, did you see that game last night? No. Like, what
Right,
the fuck are you doing?
right, right, right.
Like anybody
And
under 45 doesn't follow it. It's driving me
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it's insane. Yeah, I mean,
It's like,
they only start paying attention when March Madness happens, and then it's betting is
yeah, and then they place bets. I'm like, you don't know
you don't
shit. What are
know
you
shit
talking
about
about?
the teams, right? You can't name me five players on either team, right?
Drives me crazy.
I laughed when I got your message about our 2 for 2 on Kevin Knox being called up
Two
now.
for two on Knox.
I was gonna say, let's go down and buy lottery tickets and predict on this show we're gonna win the lottery.
Well, I posted it on some of my Facebook basketball groups. I said we're
I
very
saw.
prophetic.
Yes, yeah, no. I mean, we've spoken into existence. Let's speak some other shit now into existence. Let's bet on who's gonna win the NBA Finals and put
Oh
10 grand
shit.
on it.
Shit. I might have to do that.
Welcome to Nephew and Uncle Basketball Banter, joined by my uncle David Scholler and co-host. He's down in Virginia right now. And Uncle Dave, you're going to watch the Cavaliers they play tomorrow.
Duke, it's Flag Day here. Cooper Flag tomorrow night. Even though
All right.
I'm rooting for Virginia tomorrow night.
Well, I'm sure that's going to be a packed house tomorrow night.
It should be. Should be great.
But yeah, we'll have to talk about that game after when we have our next show. So we'll
What a
definitely.
blast. I love
Yeah.
that arena. It's a great gym.
Game I was at was it like a week and a half ago now? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. It was great against
Sure.
Virginia Tech. So
One of the
definitely,
hottest teams in the country right now, too.
yeah, certainly
Three in
are.
a row for the Who's.
So we're going to talk, Uncle Dave, about our. We had a show about a month or so ago, and ironically, last show we talked about Julian Okafor getting called up, and now the other guy we talked about that we thought would get called up is Kevin Knox, and the Warriors now just signed him to a 10-day contract.
Yeah.
Currently, Kevin Knox is averaging 25 points a game, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists in the 12 regular season G League games that he's played in. And I was just joking with you before. I said, let's go down and, have a feeling on this show that we're going to win some big money. And then,
Oh, sure.
go down and take a couple lottery tickets out and
Couple
see
of
if,
shekels.
or place our bets on who we think's going to win the NBA Finals because,
Oh, sure.
yeah, we got both those right. And I'm not surprised. I know we talked about it. We thought it was kind of crazy up until that point that they hadn't been signed. But a guy who was drafted high, who certainly really skilled and can score on all three levels and is still young. Why he should not be on an NBA roster, we would thought was perplexing. But and he's going to be in a great situation on the Warriors now with Jimmy Butler and obviously Steph and Draymond there. He just has to fill a role on the second unit there and be productive. And I don't think there's any reason why he can't. And Jahlil Okafor certainly same as well. So what do you think about this Kevin Knox signing? Obviously, we thought this would happen at some point.
I think it's the underrated part of him too is his thickness. He'll be able to rebound a little bit. They play a little small anyway, so I think he'll be able to get a couple of boards. But again, it's just like Ja. They both probably took the game for granted.
Yep.
Got told their whole life how wonderful they were,
Yep.
physically gifted, physically talented. Had to have it taken away from them. Had to be told that they sucked, and then they got their love back. And here they both are. It's a credit to them, but it's also a discredit to the American system of basketball, which is crap right now.
Sure. Yep. I think you can't. It's unbelievable too because he's only 25. It's not like he's a guy
Yep.
who's, north of 35 here. This is a guy who's still extremely young and a guy they don't do well on their first pass. There's no reason why you shouldn't give him a second chance at it when they're still so young. You can't give up on a guy that's 25 years old. And I know you talked about it before. I don't know if we've talked about it on this show, but I know in years past you've said their first 3 years, if they don't hit, we just throw them to the scrap heap. And that's just totally ridiculous when they're that young. You get them in a new
Yeah.
system, in a new situation, and they might blossom. And this is a perfect scenario right here, I think, for him. He
Yeah.
can be a spot up shooter. He can slash to the rim. Whatever they need him to do, he should just say, hey, I'm going to do whatever you need in this second unit. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I think with the Knicks situation, it never made sense to me why he wasn't playing or really given a true shot. And it might be a situation where Tom Thibodeau thought he wasn't tough enough defender. I know he's kind of a hard ass when it comes to that kind of stuff. But when you're a talented scorer, though, even if you're not a great defender, I mean, come on, there's a lot of guys in the NBA that aren't playing a whole lot of defense anyway. So I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
So this might be a better situation for him now.
I also think that and the kid was 19. 20. Something's just not good enough yet. You know,
Right.
like it's like anything else. It's
You
like
look
when
at Kevin
you know,
Knox now, unlike Okafor, he's put on his body now is totally changed.
yeah. He was a little overweight back then, as was Jaleel, and probably got in shape. Probably realized that I miss playing this game. Probably found the love again. And you know what? God bless him for that because there's so many guys out there. Johnny Flynn, Avery from Duke. There's so many guys out there
William
get that
Avery.
3-year deal
Yep.
and they toss them out. They're
Yep.
done. They have a good month of college. They come out. Some NBA scout tells them they're seventh or eighth. Some team picks them. As for in Avery's case and Flynn's case, he's picked by teams that already have point guards. I mean, it's just not smart. But Knox, I don't think he was good enough yet, and then he was
Yep.
out of shape. So I understand them not playing him, but it's kind of like the Obi Toppin thing. Obi was played for the Knicks a little bit, but there just wasn't enough minutes there for him. So they did the right thing. They put him somewhere else, and now he's having a great run on the Pacers.
I think this is a symptom of a guy who just came out too soon and was not ready yet, and it completely showed. And you
Not
also have
mature.
to remember the mental aspect. A lot of these guys, when they get to the NBA, they've never experienced any adversity. These guys, like you
No.
said, they've always won on their team because if you're an NBA talent, even in college, you could just take the game over for a lot
Yep.
of these guys if you're a high draft pick. So up until the NBA, a lot of these guys, all they've done is win. And like you said, they get their ass kissed constantly. They're told they're the best thing ever. And he's 25, Kevin Knox. So he was growing up in the AAU era and was probably told he's God's gift to everything. And a guy gets punched in the mouth and it gets humbled and he's not playing a lot and he's on a losing team. That could really destroy a guy's confidence, I'm sure. A guy who's never experienced any adversity or any negativity, that had to take a toll. So maybe a guy has to reacclimate himself and basically regroup. And I'm thinking Jaleel Okafor and Kevin Knox, that might be a situation where years from now, that's what they might be telling us one day. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, that's the funny thing. Like, again, I think it's partially an indictment of the American basketball
No, it's
system too.
not these guys' fault completely. It's true.
It's again, we rush these guys to the top. We take a kid who's not produced yet. Like, hey, and again, the two kids from Rutgers. Obviously, Ace Bailey's very talented, but Harper's been out about half the games this year. So
Right.
you're gonna tell me that you're gonna take him fifth or sixth? I don't know. You want to take him fifth or sixth? You might
It's
be
a
looking for a
gamble.
job, and you
Right.
might be looking for a job in a couple of years. But the thing is, somebody else will take him, and maybe he'll grow into it. But it's just these guys were rushed to the top. And again, you give me a guy who's never been challenged this whole life because he was told how great he was. To me, those guys very rarely do they make it. You need the guy. Michael Jordan got cut in high school.
I know.
Steph Curry got under recruited. Just look around.
Yeah,
Larry
Larry
Bird.
Bird had to play at
Oh,
Indiana State. A
I
lot of
mean,
these.
Magic was never told that because he was a 6'9" point guard. So I guess he's an example of coming through that. But it's just these other guys, they all had their problems. And most of these guys need to have that. They need to face some adversity. Plus, you're going to be mature on the road with your money when you're 19 years old. I mean, you're making $6-7 million a year minimum. What are you going to do? Go buy 10 cars the next morning? I mean,
Right.
like, what are you doing? I mean, you're not mature enough at 19. If you would have given me $6-7 million at 19 years old
Oh
and
yeah.
let me on the road by myself, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be dead somewhere. So I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, let's be honest, the system is horrendous.
Yes, no question about it.
And
And also,
if the NBA gave a crap, they would put people on these guys as
yes.
professional guides. I'm
Mhm.
sorry you can call them a babysitter, but if you really cared about your product, you keep these guys in line. People always say, well, Shaq never got in trouble. Well, when Shaq signed, his parents got involved and they went with him. There was none of that crap.
Yeah, if
So
anyone
Shaq
knows about
took
Shaquille
care.
O'Neal, his stepfather was a military man, so a very disciplined background he had, and his mother
Yeah,
was, as well, very strict on him. So,
absolutely. And they didn't tolerate any crap just because he signed a big contract. They told him where to get off. They told him, I don't give a crap who you are outside of here. You're still my son. You're gonna do what I tell you.
plus Shaquille O'Neal,
So,
he dominated in college, and he was a man by the time he got to the NBA. He
oh
was a
yeah,
three-year
he
player.
was a man. He was a man. He still is a man. It's one of my favorite players of all time. One of the most underrated players of all time, I think.
Yep, that even still is an all-time great. All right, Uncle Dave, we're going
Yep.
to transition to another stay on the Warriors here. Draymond Green now said after getting Jimmy Butler on the TNT crew at All-Star Weekend here that they are going to win the championship. Now, this I don't know, is Draymond bloviating? Is this him projecting? But you know what? I'm going to say he really truly believes it now. I think Jimmy Butler has enough in the tank where he can kind of take some of the load off of Steph and him, and they might be able to have a great, second wind here and maybe propel themselves to getting in the if they get in the playoffs and they're clicking at that point, I would say they're a very dangerous team. There's no doubt.
Well, as I like to say, when your team has a shot, you can't discount them. I call them a live dog. They'll be a dog, but they have a shot because of the way they shoot the ball. But you're gonna miss Wiggins' defense. Jimmy Butler does not defend like Wiggins.
Right.
Wiggins is a very underrated player. People can keep tossing him all over the place like they always do, but the guy is a good, well-rounded player. Just because he's not a superstar doesn't mean he still can't get you 26 and 6 because he'll do it. In his career, he's a 15-point scorer, but people try to pan him as a disappointment. But I disagree. I think he's a good player. He's one of those guys that's a quality player. So he's a guy that gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. So that goes.
Yeah, I think he's someone that he's just a steady, reliable guy. He's not in the news doing stupid shit, so he's a guy who just kind of gets overlooked. So I agree with you. I think you can't just bypass losing him. So
No, you can't.
you're gonna need guys like Buddy Hield to really step on Kaminga. We're gonna see what happens with this group here. It's not like the great Warrior teams that we talk about that had Barbosa and David Lee and Andrew Bogut and Mo Spades. This is not a team that's that deep or that talented.
No, no. And then again, where's the size?
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, like people forget you had Iggy in the hole playing defense, you had Clay playing defense, you had Bogut in the hole. Now most Bates couldn't guard me, but at the same time, you had some other guys, 4 or 5 people.
Extremely talented
Who
offensively,
could,
though.
oh God! Not only that, yes, he is. He's very talented at Matt. But but I still think they need a guy to just fake throw the ball to. It's one of those things in the post. Just so he could have guys cut off of him, but nobody seems to be concerned about that.
I know this might be ridiculous, Uncle Dave. Why don't the Warriors get a guy like Dwight Howard? I'm sure he could
Oh,
still
I know.
play. I don't
I know.
understand it.
Me neither. Yeah, well, it's funny. Well, I think
I
the
don't get
Lakers
it.
got him, right? Did the Lakers get him or not?
No, 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 no. He's
Did you
sitting at
see, did
home.
you see Draymond's other quote?
Yes, we're going to talk about that as well. But are you talking about the one with the modern day game?
Yeah.
Not smart basketball no more. I saw a clip not too long ago where Kobe said like, "Yo, it's accidental basketball." He couldn't have been more right. It was so refreshing to play against Bron because every possession is like a chess match. But you don't just get that on a regular basis. It's just who can run faster, who can hit more threes. It's no substance. And so I think it's very boring.
Yeah, so Draymond, he says he has an interview in which he talked about basically how he loved playing against LeBron because whether you like LeBron or not, he said playing against LeBron is very much like a chess game, whereas a lot of the NBA now, it's just about who could run to the free 3-point line faster and who can make more threes. So he thinks it's very
Correct.
product compared to what it used to be. And we've talked about this. A lot of guys can handle the ball maybe better or shoot it from range better, but there's no diversity in play as far as the guys,
Nope.
what they have bring to the table. Some guys were rim protector, other guys were just a spot up shooter, other guys could really slash to the rim. So there's no actual uniqueness to guys. We talked about it a couple of shows ago, how I think it Isaiah Thomas and Mark Jackson. They talked about how we had uniqueness in each position. Like Muggsy Bogues played a certain way, Isaiah did, Mark Jackson, Mark Price. You had all
Yep.
guys with unique flavors, and today it's very much the same. You only have about like 10% of the NBA that might be very unique, and the other 90% look very much the same.
I agree.
Draymond basically saying, yeah, it's who can run faster, who can hit more threes. It's no substance. I think it's very boring. I think we can agree and say that's why a lot of the ratings and interest in the NBA is currently down.
Oh yeah, it's it's not good, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I think now the cockamamie kind of lunacy they want to talk about, we mentioned it, like the gimmick type of things, take away the corner three. Just, I mean, you're going to make it even
Oh, it's crazy.
more of a
It's like taking away
circus.
the shift in baseball.
Yeah, you can't do that. We talked about it also that, the 90s Knicks and Pacers, that no one is relishing for that kind of basketball anymore, but you can't have none of that element in today's game. And that's what
True.
is missing. Adam Lefko and Shaq talked about it, how you're missing like the power element, the physicality element in today's NBA. And
Sure.
I think Draymond, his quote right there is alluding to that
Sure.
there's just not enough uniqueness now.
Sure. I agree with him.
Because you have eliminated now the power forward position. You used to have guys like Kenyon Martin and Charles Barkley and Kevin Garnett, guys that could shoot a 15-footer, but they would kick your ass inside, though. You don't
Right.
have guys that are two-way players like that at the four position anymore.
Right. And now you could get away with guys at the four Like a guy like a Wiggins could play a small four for a little while or Draymond could play a small four. Even a guy like Knox, as we said, he's a big, strong kid. I mean, you could probably put him at the small four with a backup lineup out there. And if he could post up, he could hurt you.
Yeah, I think all-stars from 15 plus years ago, they would kill today's all-stars, I think, because they could just take their ass down low. Like you said, who the hell's built like Karl Malone or David Robinson in today's NBA?
Oh
There's
God.
nobody.
If I hear one more idiot on one of these basketball groups that says, Rudy Gobert would stop Shaq, I mean, Shaq would dunk him to the basket.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you used to have guys that were not gifted really offensively necessarily, but they were brick shit houses. They were guys that were really going to protect the rim for you. You don't have any of that now.
No, none of that.
You
It's
know,
horrendous.
you have a Rudy Gobert or Clint Capella, and that's your centers in today's NBA. It's putrid. You
I
used to
know.
have guys
I
that
know.
a guy like Alonzo Mourning now would be a dominant center in today's NBA. I know people
Yep.
see, we joke about Alonzo Mourning being a Hall of Famer, but he was a good center still. But in today's NBA,
Great defender.
yeah, he would
Great
be
defender,
exceptional,
always
though.
played hard.
Right, a Patrick Ewing, they would just have these guys for lunch. Moses Malone, unbelievable.
I mean, Joker is to me, he's the only legit center today. And
That's it.
Wemby, whatever you want to call Wemby, I guess you can call him a center, but but then again, Joker's to me is like an all-time great center.
Right.
So
And I like
he
Joel
covered.
Embiid, but he plays every other night. You can't, I
Oh
really
God,
can't
yeah.
put him in there.
He's a
And
jump shooter from 15.
And a guy like Anthony Davis, he doesn't want to play center, so you can't say he's a great center by any means. He's
No,
a guy who's
power
always
forward.
wanted to play four. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Uncle Dave, we're going to have our next topic here. Coach K, he talked about and weighed in on the NIL situation in college basketball, and I was really wondering when we were going to get a great quote from Coach K like this because he's really not talked about it. He's talked about how he admits the NIL era would have pushed him into the NBA now if he was younger and coaching still.
Sure.
Quote,
Sure.
he says, if I was 60 today and still coaching at Duke, I would think very seriously about coaching in the NBA because right now it's a pay for play. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that if I'm going to do that, I rather do it at the highest level where I have an organization around me doing all the stuff. So all I have to do is coach, end quote.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with him. It's a shame though, because you lose good people who already lost like half the ACC is looking for a coach. But you're losing good people. I will say though that I couldn't see Coach K leaving Duke. I know he would say he would think about it. I know the Celtics courted him a couple of times over
That
the
was in
years.
the mid 80s. Yes, he was thinking
Yes,
about it.
yes, he was courted by them. I remember that very well. But at the same time, I still think you get to coach. I think you have to have the people around you. That's why these schools are hiring general managers. I know Carolina and Hubert Davis is trying to save this job by saying, "Well, we're going to hire a GM." Well, Hubert.
I think it's too late for that, honestly.
Yeah, might be. I mean, could they have him on the bubble? But I don't think Carolina should even be on the bubble, which is a topic that, Jesus Christ, the bubble. I mean, Joe Lunardi, who I love, is just how could you tell me Arkansas is in the bubble? You're 4-8. I don't want to hear about your bubble. You're 4-8. Texas sucks too. They're on the bubble. No, they're not. They suck. But but you got to tell me SMU can't get in at 10-4. I mean, come on, it's not even close. I mean, so it's just ridiculous. But yeah, well, Coach K, I don't blame him for saying that, but I would still rather be in college. It's less travel. It's half the games, and you're in charge. No GM to fire you.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think maybe a young Coach K might have done that,
Sure.
but a Coach K
Sure.
is, 20 plus years at Duke. I don't see he would have done that, but
Well, the reason you don't do it either is look how many Coach of the Years have been fired within 3 years after they won Coach of the Year.
yeah,
Jason Kidd,
Avery
Lawrence
Johnson.
Frank, Avery Johnson, coach of the Toronto Raptors. Oh, who is that? Not Nick Nurse, the other guy, the guy before Nick Nurse. Oh, Jesus, he's been fired. He's on the NBA podcast now.
I think it happened to Nick Nurse though too. He got
Yeah,
fired.
probably did. I mean, so
No, it
these
did
guys
happen to Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse won with the Raptors and was fired.
sure, but the other guy, he won Coach of the Year with them. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank for Dwayne Casey. Thank you.
Dwayne Casey, yeah.
Dwayne Casey Gordon in the background there. Dwayne Casey won Coach of the Year too, and now he's doing a podcast like we are. So it's sad because you win Coach of the Year 2 or 3 years later. Something happens where you overachieve the year you win Coach of the Year, and then all of a sudden, like you watch, if the Pacers don't get back to where they were last year, they'll be all over Rick Carlisle.
Which is totally ridiculous because Rick Carlisle's an excellent coach. That would be insane.
Yeah, he is. But it's the same thing. It's what happened to the Hawks a couple of years ago. They liked Nate for a little while, then they kicked him to the curb. Then people just get rid of guys. It's
like the Hawks had a really good run with Mike Woodson, Mike Budenholzer, and guys just don't stay. If you don't win a championship, they just move on from you. It's just totally insane.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's the beauty of why I thought the Mavs did win was because they stuck with that team. That team lost some really horrendous series. They lost to the Warriors in the 1-8 series, which has only happened a couple of times before basketball became crazy and no one played in the regular season anymore. Now the 1-8's not that much of an upset anymore, but back then when teams still played in the regular season, they had a really good team and they lost to the Warriors, and they let that team stay together for the most part. I mean, they shouldn't have kicked off Nash, but they let that team grow. They let them go through their growing pains. And I think that's why the Cleveland Cavaliers are so good. And everybody forgets over the summer, they were trying to trade one of the guards. And they were trying to trade one of the big guys. It was Allen or Mobley. You can't get rid of Mobley. He's one of the most talented guys in the league, and Allen blocks shots. So why are we getting rid of them? And Mobley can score and block shots. And then they wanted to get rid of the guards because they couldn't play together. Well, you give them a chance to learn how to play together. And this is why the Cavs are where they are. They got to develop, and you got Kenny Atkinson, who obviously is a great coach.
So this Coach K quote, this NIL stuff, I think maybe an up and coming coach might do this, but a guy like Tom Izzo or Kelvin Sampson or Jamie Dixon, I don't think those type of guys who really have been in college now for so long would do this
Sure.
now for an NBA job. But a guy who now maybe he's coached, under 300 games or so, who's doing really well, maybe if he gets a call, might take that. But it would have to be, I think, just insane type
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. And Kelvin's got that background in the NBA, but I can't see him leaving Houston now. He's got it going so well over there.
Oh,
But
he
you're right.
actually has a culture in the modern day NIL stuff, which is hard to do. So,
Sure. Yeah, like you said earlier in another show, he had four guys come back, which
yeah.
four starters come back in the NL area. That's rough.
Yeah, even before NIL, with how guys are leaving for the NBA now on successful teams, that was impressive. So,
Sure.
and
Very
post
impressive.
NIL, totally insane to hear that. So,
Yeah.
I think that Coach K quote, I think it's prolific. I think maybe for in some instances we'll see down the road for sure. But it was interesting to get his take on that. And I honestly think Coach K, one of the reasons he did retire, obviously he was close to the end of his career anyway. But I think this
Sure.
modern day way of doing things, I think he was not equipped for that. So that might have pushed him out maybe a year or two earlier than he maybe would have otherwise.
Sure. Sure.
And we're going to go, Uncle Dave. I don't know if this is a rumor here or a sick joke, but The Atlantic apparently had an interview with Cooper Flagg in which he said he wants to be back next year, potentially for Duke. Is this something that we're buying, or are we thinking this is insane? What
I don't
what
know.
have you? I
I've
know
seen
we.
it. I've seen it multiple places. I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I've not heard it from him, and with the way AI is now progressing, I don't even know if I would believe this necessarily, but I think the NIL stuff, the way it is, you might actually have a guy who maybe he's like a god on campus and he might say, hey, you know what? I'm getting compensated now. I can do off the court stuff. He has a deal with New Balance. Guy might say, hey, I might want to rock here and chill out for a few years rather than
Yeah,
rush
I
to
mean,
the
if
NBA.
you probably figure out, he's probably getting a couple of mil between everything he's doing. Like,
Oh,
why
yeah,
not?
absolutely. All the endorsements and everything, and you're playing at Duke. I mean, come on. You think Grant
He's
Hill's
never going to play in that environment ever again. Even
exactly,
Grant Hill,
exactly.
Grant Hill talks about it all the time. Grant Hill's
Yeah,
like, there's no environment like that.
no, absolutely not. Let's say they finish out this year, right? And whatever happens, happens. He's going to be the number one pick regardless of where Duke finishes, I think. And you get drafted by the Pelicans. There's no way New Orleans you're going to have that environment, even though it's a great city
No,
and it's a maybe a great fan base. Even you're not going to have that type of admiration that you'll have at Duke. So you know
nope.
what? I'm going to say I'm going to give this maybe some credence here because it might be a legit thing now. The culture might be shifting
Sure.
towards guys staying now that they can get compensated. So that might be actually maybe the one silver lining in the modern NIL era we're in now.
Sure. I mean, that could be a silver lining because the guys aren't in a hurry, and that's why the teams are older. And we've talked about that. The teams are older, and that's the beauty of it all. That's the one of the few positives about it. The teams are older, and we can afford to let these guys grow a little bit if they're getting a couple of dollars.
Right.
Not the kind of dollars that Jalen Rose still lies about. I
Oh
couldn't
God.
get a burger. It's like, stop! You couldn't get a burger at Michigan. Yeah, get the hell out of here! I'm so tired
My
of hearing that
best,
bullshit.
my most favorite quote is Shabazz Napier saying he went to bed hungry. I'm like, you're at UConn playing
Yeah,
basketball.
yeah, yeah. You're playing
Stop.
UConn basketball. You're not going to
You're
bed
telling me
hungry.
if
Trust me.
Shabazz Napier walked in the UConn cafeteria, they weren't feeding him? Give me a break.
Yeah, we had guys at Winthrop who didn't go to bed hungry, and we were Winthrop. All right, so we weren't good. So they didn't go hungry. So I don't want to hear about it. It's
Yeah,
crap.
I think that is just a total falsehood. I think anyone who tries to talk about that, I don't care.
Oh
Even if
yeah.
you're on scholarship at Division two, they're not letting
Well,
that happen.
Jalen likes to hear himself talk.
Oh
He's just
God.
full of crap. You get meal money, Jalen. What'd you do? Gamble it away, or did you go to the crack house with it? Which one did you do? Jalen just does it to hear himself talk. Well, thank
So we're
God
gonna
he's off the air now.
on
Can't
this
stand that guy.
nephew and uncle basketball banter. We're gonna keep a tab on that. Cooper Flag rumor there. I don't know if it's like I said, I've seen it pop up on a couple places, but that doesn't mean necessarily it's true. But obviously, as Duke fans, we would love to see that. I think that precedent would be great. I think if he came back, it'd be
Oh
great
God,
for
I would love to
college.
see him back.
It'd
Him
be
and
great for
Boozer.
college basketball. Yeah, I think that would be absolutely incredible. Now, obviously, if Duke wins a championship, it would be hard to, try to maybe get up for another year. But who knows? We'll see what happens. A different
Plus, he's
culture.
younger. He's only 18. He just turned 18 about a month ago.
Our last thing, Uncle Dave, before we get to our college basketball, I saw you liked a post and it came up on my feed, so I thought we would bring it up here. Agree or disagree? March Madness is more fun to watch than the NBA playoffs, and I
Oh,
thought
agree.
we would
Totally
bring that
agree.
up. I would
Totally
say
agree.
there are years where the NBA playoffs is really fun, and
Sure.
maybe some March Madness tournaments are down, so maybe the playing field does get evened out there. But I will say March Madness year in and year out more
I'll tell
fun
you
than
why.
the NBA playoffs for sure.
First of all, on Monday morning, after the field is announced, it's part of America. Everybody's got a bracket in every office across the country.
Right.
Everybody's got a bracket.
Yes.
The teachers who I work with are picking by their favorite color, their favorite state. Every walk of life has a bracket. There's not a business with over 20 people in it that doesn't have a pool. You can't say the same for the NBA. The hardcore gambler goes and gambles on the NBA. And NCAA tournament's part of Americana. By the way,
It is true.
the number one day in the country for vasectomies is the Wednesday before the first day of the tournament. That's been a fact for multiple years. You can look it up.
You're getting all your
Bottom
medical
line is
information here at this show.
exactly. You get medical information here on the Hoop podcast here, but the bottom line is it's Americana. The other stuff isn't.
Yes.
NBA Finals is great. Don't get me wrong. I've had the 87 finals, magical, 85 finals, 82 finals, all my Lakers wins there. I loved watching the Spurs kill the Heat. That was fun. I mean, we've had so many great finals, by the way, over
But
the
that's
years
not a
to
knock even
watch.
on the NBA finals. We've had some great NBA
Exactly.
playoffs and NBA finals, but
Absolutely.
March
Absolutely.
Madness, I will say from tournament time, you got your conference tournaments all the way up until Selection Sunday. I will say it's the closest thing to having a Christmas type as a kid feeling you're going to
Oh,
get. There's no question
and
about it.
again, all the teachers after this break in February here are going to go, oh, I hate March. I go, like, I love March.
It's great.
I go home
Yeah.
every day. I'm excited. I
And
don't
I think you
care.
could argue, Uncle Dave, that you have those first 2 days of the tournament. They're better than the Final Four or the
They
championship
are.
game, even.
They are better than the
Those
Final
first
Four because
two
the Final
rounds.
Four for the 100th time is going to be played on a stage, which we don't do all year long.
I
We're going to be shooting.
well,
We're shooting at the top of a building, which is just wonderful.
for all the viewers out there, we're going to save that for a rant. I'm sure as we get
Oh,
close to
there's a
the
rant
Final
coming
Four,
again.
we're going to
There'll be
talk
another
about
rant about it.
we'll talk about the stage and why the hell are we playing on an
We're
elevated
still
stage?
playing on a stage, and now the coaches are up elevated, and their team is down a set of
Yes,
stairs, which you don't do the rest of the year.
right,
So why are
right,
we doing it now? It's
right,
unbelievable.
right. And you don't
Just
do
to
it.
fit a guy, just to fit a guy who needs a pair of binoculars to see the game in the 40,000 seat Superdome.
But yeah, so I will agree with you. I think that March Madness, year in and year out, overall, is more fun than the NBA playoffs and the NBA.
Yeah, I can't remember a dud March Madness ever, and I can't remember really a dud NBA playoff ever. But then again, I'm a hooper. But oh, March Madness always delivers. I mean, the NBA gives you some years where it's just like, a little boring. Like, I don't know, like when the Bulls beat the hell out of the Sonics, that was not fun. I mean, you were really young back then, so you don't remember that, but that wasn't a fun playoff. The Bulls just assassinated everybody, and that was it.
Right, right.
Kicked everybody's ass, and then they beat the hell out of this.
Or
They
like
beat
when
the hell
San
out of the
Antonio
Sonics.
beat Cleveland in '07, that like the
Yeah,
Spurs just with a better team. It was no you knew by
right,
you knew
right.
after game two that series was
Yeah,
wrapped
and
up.
the Western Conference Finals that year were very good. But at the same time, like the NBA playoffs as a whole has more to do because there are more rounds, obviously. There's 4 7 games, so 4 7 game series. Back then, one of them was five. But today, I mean, it's very exciting today. I mean, you have a situation where you get the first 2 or 3 rounds can be good. But March Madness, I mean, that first 2 days of the tournament, nothing better, man. Nothing.
No, it's true.
To me, the most two boring tournaments of all time have been the last 2 years because UConn was that much better than everybody else.
Yeah, you could argue that for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I love the tournament. It wasn't boring, but it was the most boring if you have to pick one because to me, they were heads or tails, but and I kept thinking maybe Purdue could get him with Smith and Edie, McGillis, but no,
Yeah, you had I think the Alabama UConn game, that was the best game I think we had.
that was a chance.
UConn
Yep.
played it. Yep. And yeah, it's I will say you also even those years with UConn, like you had great games like Oakland beating Kentucky, just totally insane to see that.
Great game.
Oakland, a
Great
team that
game.
nobody has really the country's not seen anybody from Oakland play really.
Sure.
besides basketball junkies like you
Well,
and
that's why we give you the first place teams in the smaller conferences here. We follow those guys. My
yep.
Merrimack guys had a tough loss the other night to Marist.
So we'll wrap up Uncle Dave there with the March Madness being more fun than the NBA
Sure,
final. So
sure.
we'll now transition to our college hoop. What are the games that you saw, Uncle Dave, that really have stood out to you since we
Sure.
last spoke?
Sure. We'll start with the Saturday. This was really disappointing because Fox and ABC bought some Friday night games, and this was the first Friday. They didn't really have a lot of good games. But on Saturday, Auburn, Alabama. Alabama, again, I know that they believe in shooting more threes than anybody else, but this is what happens when you don't shoot well from three. I
Hmm.
believe Auburn made about 18 more points worth of threes than Alabama did, and that's the game right there. Alabama still had a chance to win, which is frightening. But Sears had a tough day. Auburn is a legit team. Bruce Pearl gets his guys to play hard. It was a lot of fun to watch this game. Auburn definitely is a better team right now, though. Would I be surprised in a couple of weeks if Alabama goes back in Auburn and wins? No, because Alabama, the style they play, they're going to shoot it. And
Right.
if it goes in that day, you're going down.
Well, the thing
Uh,
with Alabama is that with them being so focused on the 3-point shot, they must make more. If they don't make more 3-pointers than you, then their goose is
sure.
cooked. So that's kind of what happened against
Uh,
Auburn.
Duke took apart Stanford, but you can see how talented the big kid is at Stanford. He's a pro. He's a
Yes, we
Frenchman.
talked about him being an
We've
NBA
talked
player.
about him before. Florida, another boring win versus South Carolina. We can't even judge it. Tennessee came back from 15 down versus Vanderbilt. Really exciting game. Ziegler from Long Island here, shout out. Got it done for Tennessee, 81-76. Houston just dominated Arizona late. And Houston said, all right, we're men. You're still boys. We're going to kick your ass late. And Love been in college for 100 years now playing for Arizona. He's on the Randolph Childress plan. I don't know what the hell. He's been in college for 35 years, I think.
Eric Devendorf plan from
Yeah.
Syracuse too.
And Houston just took him out. And Love still is the guy that'll shoot you in or out of a game. And I know he hit big shots in 2022, but hadn't hit a big shot since. And Houston is just men out there. And tough stuff. I mean, Houston just looked like men down the stretch. And they're,
I like them going to the Final Four, Uncle Dave. They are absolutely they
you know
stand
what's
out. They
scary?
jump off on the screen to you. Yep.
Two stats. One of the most impressive stats of all time is I think Kansas won the Big 12, I think 14 years in a row, I want to say, or
Mhm.
13 years in a row. In the first 2 years Houston's been in it, they've won it.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you. Uh, Wisconsin really beat Purdue up at home. Purdue did not look good. Purdue couldn't guard me yesterday. This is not the swing offense Wisconsin team here. This team scored 94 points, one of the best offensive teams in the country. And Brett Gard has got these guys playing his style, not Bo Ryan's style. And that's good because watching the old Wisconsin teams was tough some days. But Purdue did not look good yesterday. Couldn't get a stop. Buzz Williams gets Texas A&M to beat Arkansas. If I hear Arkansas is on the bubble at 4-8, I'm gonna just like have a seizure. How are you on the bubble at 4-8? You have to beat somebody. I don't give a shit what league you're in. You eventually have to win a damn game.
Coach Cal's
So
got naked photos.
maybe we should just play only great teams and we can go like 3-24 and make the tournament. I don't care who the hell you're playing. You need to win a
Need to
game.
win the games, right? Yep.
You're 4-8.
Yes.
I was in the toughest league in the county this year. Did I get in for going 4-12 in the league? No, I played tough games. But the bottom line is you got to win a game. Sorry,
Yeah.
you don't get to get in.
No,
Buzz
it's so
Williams
true.
winning everywhere he goes. Just death, taxes, and Buzz Williams. Iowa State beat Cincinnati, who's not the same since Mick Cronin left. Michigan State beat Illinois in a boring game. Michigan State's legit. I've said it all year. Very
Quietly, I
athletic.
think Uncle Dave, Tom Izzo having a really nice year. No one's really
There
talking
is.
about
There's one
them,
of I
but
said it to you. There's one of his best teams. They got athleticism. They're long and they're deep. They're tough. Texas Tech murdered Okie State. Okie State's program is in a mess right now. 4-10 in the Big 12. And here's another one. Texas 5-8. No, I don't care if you beat Kentucky, who's 6-6. You're not on the bubble either. You're 5-8. You're dog shit. So Texas beats Kentucky at home, but Kentucky's missing guys. They're still missing guys. And all the fanfare for Kentucky for like the first month of the season. So what does it mean? Like the November wins mean more to you? So, and by the way, if we're going to talk about November wins, then why isn't Duke ranked ahead of Auburn? Didn't they beat them?
Mhm.
Auburn just walked into Alabama and won. They didn't walk into Duke and win. But Alabama wins matter when it fits your agenda. The November wins matter when it fits your agenda, but it doesn't matter when it doesn't fit your agenda. So if that's the case, then why isn't Duke ranked higher?
I hear you.
It's just insane. I'm not saying they're better, but if you're going to go by that logic, let's be consistent with the logic. Kansas lost to Utah. Utah's not
Uncle
even a
Dave,
good
we got to talk
Utah.
about them. Kansas is just falling apart right now. I mean,
We've
8 and
talked
6
about
now in
this.
Big 12.
They're bored. They're bored. They're asleep. They better
You better
wake
get
up
on
soon
board now.
because.
You've dropped like 4 of your last 6 here.
But here they are. They're 8-6 and they're ranked 17th in the country. How is that?
Yeah.
Here's the other thing. They're going to be at 8 or 9, and some poor ass one seed is going to win a game and get Kansas in the 8-9 game.
I know you're gonna be pissed. Yeah.
And you're going to be pissed because they've been jaking it all year, hanging out. Mississippi State beats Ole Miss. Great game. Mississippi State is a very good team, but so is Ole Miss. Coach Beard's one of my favorites. Missouri is legit. Georgia, who started out the year like 14-1, is now 16-10. It's a repeated theme on the show. Big conferences
Yep.
are coach
The
killers.
SEC is killing them. Yep.
Georgia is now 87, they lose 87-74 to Missouri. Clemson just keeps rolling. It's still only ranked 23rd. Just keep beating the hell out of everybody. But hey, whatever. Miami can't win out of its own way. They're not even going to make the ACC tournament. Pittsburgh 6-8. I don't want to get them on the bubble. You're 6-8 and not even a deep ACC. I mean, I'll root for them to get in, but I love Capel, but no. St. Bonaventure, Uncle Ken's alum, beats UMass. Good win there. Xavier's very hot. 8-7 in the Big East. They are on the bubble. They got a shot to get in there. Some really, 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 really good games yesterday. BU beats Colgate in the Patriot League, and Colgate, who usually runs through the Patriot League, is not running through the Patriot League this year. They're 8-6. BU's 7-7. So that's a little bit of a shock. So that was a little wild to see that score right there. Unfortunately, Hofstra and Stony Brook locally is struggling. Bryant University, Uncle Larry, rest his soul. He's an alum of Bryant University, 11-1 in the America East, kicking butt. Navy beat Army, and Army's having a great year at 9-5 in the Patriot League, which is excellent. My Winthrop Eagles, only 8-5 this year in the Big South, not going to get to the dance. West Virginia lost to Baylor. Baylor just pulled it out in overtime. Baylor's legit. Virginia, the hottest team in the ACC, them and Georgia Tech. The Hoos get 3 in a row. They led wire to wire at Virginia Tech, not an easy place to play. NC State won the battle of the last place teams. They beat Boston College. Thank God that NC State went to the Final Four and extended his contract last year automatically in a bonus. Penn State, who was 13-13 now, was 10-1. They were 13 and now they're 13-13. They were 10-1, 3-12 in the Big Ten. So here you are. You were 10-1. Do the math. And you just lost to Washington at home. So don't buy a new house, coach. All right, be careful. Binghamton versus New Jersey Tech, who was doing well until they pushed their coach out. Now New Jersey Tech is not good anymore. Georgetown is done. I don't want to hear about a bubble. I know we like Ed Cooley, but they lost to Butler. I'm sorry. You got to go. If the Butler did it, you're out. James Madison having a good win. Not allowed to mention that here in Virginia. But they had a good win yesterday. Towson killed Monmouth. Towson's 13-1. Hofstra, like I said, bad loss to Hampton, just blew him out. You can see these blowouts, makes you nervous. What's going on there? And Speedy Claxton's one of my favorite players and one of my favorite coaches.
I have to worry, I think, in that situation that the team is quitting on the coach.
But here's a great topic for you of the day. So this morning, driving here to Virginia, I'm listening to these guys killing Danny Hurley on the college basketball podcast. Just because a guy gives you real answers, this is intense. Why has he become the enemy? Yeah. I don't care if he's cocky or not. You're telling me Dean Smith wasn't cocky? He was cocky in a quiet way. I mean, when he ran the ACC, when Coach K came in, the stuff Dean Smith did and got away with was absurd. If you're a diehard Duke fan, you know what some of that stuff was. We can talk about that another day. UConn is still a really good team. I mean, they're not going to win the whole thing this year, but and everybody goes, well, he came out and said he was going to try to win a third championship at UConn. Well, what do you want him to say? He's never going to try to win a third championship? So that makes him a bad guy now. So Seton Hall, UConn blows this game. A disgraceful ending up 5 against a Seton Hall team that's really bad. They're not good at all. UCF got blown by Colorado. That was disappointing. I thought UCF was making some headway with my man Johnny Dawkins, Duke alum there. Always root for him. Stony Brook lost by 11. Northeastern got him 7-7 as Northeastern. Georgia Tech's one of the hottest teams in the ACC. The Guards overtime 90-88. Definitely having some big wins. They win a tip-in at the buzzer for Georgia Tech. Great stuff. GW beat Davidson. Davidson has done crap since Bob McKillop left. What a shock. So, he wanted to get out of there. Minnesota beats USC, so that was kind of cool to see. Minnesota trying to have a year where they finish up strong. Just a lot of good games. And then today, Oregon beat Rutgers pretty bad. Rutgers didn't play any defense, which was their calling card. It's disappointing. I don't think it's going to happen for them this year. Dartmouth 6-3 in the Ivy. They haven't been 6-3 in the Ivy since I think Reagan was in office. They beat up on Cornell by 40. So maybe their threat to unionize woke them up a little bit. They were going to unionize. They finally won some games. North Carolina beat Syracuse. Again, they yelled about Jim Boeheim for 40 years. They've had 2 years without him, 2 years of losing and losing badly. Wake Forest beat SMU in the biggest game of the day. I know it's 1 versus 2, but 1 versus 2 are going to get in. Wake Forest goes in there at 10-4 and beats SMU at 10-3 on the road. So that's a big game for the bubble. They should both get in, but of course we'll get screwed because we're the ACC, and there's some narrative out there that we suck. But you know how that goes. Villanova lost to Providence by 13. Not good.
How about their win against St. John's, Uncle Dave, the other night, Wednesday, earlier this week? Wednesday.
I know. Just goes to show you anything's possible. But
Yep.
LSU goes and beats Oklahoma. I want to repeat once again. Oklahoma was 13-0. They are now 16-9. Welcome to the Big 12. Welcome to the SEC, Oklahoma. How you like that? It's just insane.
It'll humble you quick.
Yeah, it's that's what the problem with the size of these conferences is. Like, what are you supposed to do?
No, it's
Half your conference, Kansas State might have been the hottest team in the Big 12, and now they got blown by BYU. That just killed their chances. So they lose by 15 at BYU, not an easy place to play. Gonzaga keeps rolling along, 11-3. No one talking about him, not ranked. Mark Few, one of the best coaches there is every year, and he just continues to get W after W. Not a shock there. Let's check out today's scores. We talked about it the other day. Rutgers, again, rough win, rough loss, actually, for my guys from Rutgers there.
Yeah.
I root for them hard. Not a good day for Rutgers, so I'm hoping. But today, Notre Dame is getting shellacked right now by Louisville. Shrewsbury had such a promising start to the year, but they got shellacked. St. John's beat Creighton, good game. Cole Cronin went out for like 4 minutes, and they got a lead, and they couldn't come back. Memphis lost.
Yes,
They had
to
August,
Wichita State.
10-game winning streak.
Yep.
How could someone tell me Ohio State's on the bubble? Big Ten's not even that good this year. Ohio State's 7-8. Michigan beats them. Michigan's a legitimate team.
Yep.
Maryland killed Iowa. I know Fran McCaffrey's been getting crushed this week, but they beat Rutgers the other night on the road. It was a good win. So today's slate a little bit smaller. Like I said, Marist beat Merrimack in the MAC for first place. So that's 61-60 game. So that's big. I know people don't follow that necessarily. People tell me Nebraska's on the bubble. They lost a lot of tough games, but they're 7-8 also. Don't want to hear about the bubble and you're not even winning. Like I said, Oregon blew out Rutgers, and so it's not looking good for Rutgers. Tomorrow I'll be at the
How about another heartbreaking loss, Uncle Dave, for Northwestern losing to Nebraska?
Oh my God!
Oof.
Northwestern could write a book. I mean, they got to write a book. This
year's been torturous for them. They've lost so many close games this year.
Chris Collins is an excellent coach too, but it's just might be too hard to win there.
Yeah, you might have to keep the sharp objects away from him now.
Yeah, you might not want to shave tonight. You know, it's going to be rough tomorrow night. Like I said, Duke versus Virginia tomorrow night. It's a big game. Utah, Kansas State tomorrow night. One of these teams is going to really finish the other one off. Arizona, Baylor tomorrow night, 10 o'clock is a good game, and that'll be a lot of fun. But right now we got all this bubble and Ken Palm talk and every other stuff. But last four in, last four out. But you know, if you're 4-8, you shouldn't be on the bubble. I'm sorry, you got to be better. Too bad. I don't care what league. I don't care if you're in the NBA West when the Lakers were in there. Not good enough. 4-8's not good enough.
Selection Sunday. I think we're going to do a show right after that. We're going to have to and talk about.
We're going to do a show before and then after. Because this is
fireworks might be going off on the after show.
Well, we got to do fireworks, and Gordon has his Excel expertise for making his bracket where we can advance the teams through the bracket. So you're gonna have to have G on there for that too. He's
we'll have the first
he's like the Excel czar,
right,
of the bracket. He knows how to move them along. He's been doing that for like 4 years with me on there. It's pretty funny to watch. Put me on Excel. I'm good for a couple of things, but I don't know. He's like he gets the whole bracket up there. I don't know what he does, but he gets it up there and we can move it along. So we'll have fun with that show. We got to get Connor on for that show.
We'll have nephew, uncle, cousin, brother basketball banter. It'll be a special title. Because Connor's
old guy and the Three Musketeers.
Yeah, because Connor, he's really intense on the betting, like with the lower like Division I schools. Like he'll be like watching like Lamar and Northwestern State.
So we can't have him on if we can't make it a gambling show. We can't talk about gambling, but we'll have to tell him no gambling talk before he gets on.
He'll have to say, you know what, I like him by a few buckets. You know, he could do that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you do that. But what's funny is Dickie V came back last week. We got to talk about Dickie V. Dickie V deserves a shout out because when ESPN bought up college basketball, when ESPN was a youngster in 1980 and 1979, they bought the truck and tractor pull, which was cheap, so they bought it, and they bought like the rights to like the Big East because the Big East was new back then. And Dickie V used to come on every Monday and Wednesday night. You just hear him screaming all the time. Every time a big basket was made, Dickie V was his positivity, made ESPN and college basketball like brothers. And it's all Dickie V that did that because he would come on every night and they'd be going from city to city driving because they had no money. And he just made it happen. He's so positive. He's Mr. College basketball. So it's good to have Dickie V back. He was at the Duke game and he's raised almost $100 million for cancer research in the last 2 years. The guy's incredible. So, a lot of people can say what they want about Dickie V, but if you can find a guy with a bigger heart, then I want to meet him. You don't have to like him. But what is this world today? We have to like everybody. Like you have to like everything about everybody. It's like, dude, if you think he's loud, he's loud. So what? I don't really care. The guy raised $92 million so far for cancer research. That's pretty special.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, to me, Dick Vitale's always been someone like Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross. Like everybody likes him, you know what I mean? So I don't know who
It's like
out
this
there.
Bob Hurley stuff, Danny Hurley stuff. They're all killing Danny Hurley. I'm like, guys, so you want a guy, again, we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago. We want a guy with personality. So this guy, after the game the other night, shows his rings to the Creighton fans. All right. That's definitely obnoxious. Not something I would ever do.
You know what? But something was probably said to him to have done that. You're telling me if they didn't say anything, he
Absolutely.
would have done that? There's no way.
Absolutely. And I guess some of the hate is the UConn fans are probably the most obnoxious fans.
Plus, I
They,
like the going back and forth thing. I think that's healthy, I think, in a sport to have
sure.
some of that, I think. As long as it's tasteful.
Sure.
I think it's tasteful what he did. He didn't
Yeah.
say go kill yourself or anything to anyone else.
No, I just wouldn't do it. But the bottom line is he's asking for criticism, but at the same time, like he said a couple of weeks ago, yeah, I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell the kid missed a free throw, and he said, hey, he's going to go home and look at his 2 championship rings. I mean, so yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
You've earned the right to say that, though.
I tell you what, you don't want to see UConn in the tournament because he'll get them to play hard.
Yep.
And you know what? I think this is how they'll lose eventually. I think they'll get behind by 25 in whatever game they lose, and they'll lose by 2. That's going to be UConn because they're very inconsistent right now.
But he's a winning coach, and he knows what the tournament's like.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I'm
sure.
going to give them an edge over anyone they play in that regard, certainly. So
sure.
Maybe a team that, and they've lost a lot of close games. So maybe it's a team that, in the last 2 weeks of the season, maybe they got on a hot streak and they're going to be dangerous. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
And they run the best sets, too. They run the best sets. They're unbelievable.
Yep.
They run the best sets. It's ridiculous. With the stuff they run with their European flavor there and stuff. It's they really, a couple of years ago, he hired basically a coordinator, and got to give him credit for that. He realized that was his weak side of the ball, and he let this guy take the offense. And when you watch them run their stuff, it's immaculate. Now you got to have the players to execute it still, but it's still good stuff.
Yeah, so we're really getting into it now, Uncle Dave. We have 2 weeks until March, and now we have our bubble teams that are really locked in now because they're competing now for their conference seeding and everything. So we're gonna have some great basketball here down the stretch, no doubt about it. And
one thing I want to do going forward is we got to each bring who's hot and who's not.
Yes.
Because right now that's really important. For some reason the committee thinks that if you're going to think that a win today is different than a win then, it really is. It's still a win. But again,
teams now are totally different when they were 2 months ago versus today. So
and that's like I said before. If you're gonna, the committee seems to have their agenda. So if you're gonna tell me November score is important, then why is Duke ahead of Auburn?
Yep.
They beat them. So
two games to watch for tomorrow, no question. Duke at Virginia tomorrow, and you'll be at that game, and Arizona at Baylor. So those are 2 games that are going to be must see for tomorrow night for all you college hoop fans out there. So we're gonna.
Yep, it's Flag Day.
Yes, Flag Day.
And we gotta see if he's really talking about coming back.
No, we'll definitely keep an eye on that news right there because that'll be big headline type stuff right there if there is any.
Yeah, and you wonder if Shire, I'm sure would want him back, but talk about pressure.
Yes,
Shire and Boozer.
Yes, but I'm sure John Shire would welcome that pressure, though, no question about it.
But I think now this might be corny, but I actually think this group actually likes playing with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you too. It's
I
a
mean, sometimes you can tell teams that don't like each other. They never share the ball. This group shares the ball. They like each other.
yep.
That doesn't mean they're going to beat a physical team because this year again they've lost to the oldest team in college basketball experience wise, the fourth oldest and the 10th oldest.
Yep, we've
All
talked
three of
about
their
that
losses.
and lack of real true point guard. Those are the two
Yeah,
weaknesses with this team, but there's certainly a team that's capable of winning the whole thing. There's no doubt. So,
definitely. They got to get the right matchup. I think if on a short if on one weekend on a Thursday Saturday they got to play back to back physical teams, I think it's going to hurt them. I
yeah,
think they got to stay like one physical team a weekend. I think that'd be fine.
yeah.
But
We're
and I
realistic
tell you what,
fans. We're not brain dead. We see what's in front of us with
you know
not
what's funny
rose-colored
too?
glasses.
To me, the fantasy matchup, if you just wanted to see the craziest game of all time, would be like Alabama versus Duke because they both want to run up and down all day. And Alabama is going to run up and down with anybody. And I think if you want to run up and down with Duke, you're insane too. So to me, Alabama on a good day and Duke on a good day, it might be 110 to 110.
Yeah, and we might get a game like that in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, the kid Nelson for Alabama didn't step up yesterday. Disappointed. I really like him a lot, but he wasn't good yesterday. And Sears, like I said, they locked him off pretty good. He got going late, but a lot of bad reffing yesterday too in that game. Was over got hosed a couple of times on the whistle and still held on and won. But nonetheless, really exciting time of year for college basketball.
No doubt. We're gonna sign off there, Uncle Dave. All right. Great show. All right.
Peace,
To all you basketball fans out there, live long and prosper, and may the force be with you.
Spock.